It was one of those nights. I found this box of puzzles I bought one time and completely forgot about, just sitting there. So I opened it. I started a few pieces, nothing serious, but then after work, I got fully immersed. And then the weekend happened, and I just completely dived in. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I needed a break, so I put on Netflix, and I knew that it's that time of the year where I watch 3 movies in a row, and I hadn't done that in a really long time. I had a stressful week, and sometimes you just need to be like a kid on summer break. No agenda, no productivity, just exist. I watched this movie, Voicemails for Isabel, rom-com. Funny and beautiful and emotional, and I would recommend it. Honestly, it was exactly what I needed. And I realized I actually need that from time to time. Permission to do nothing useful. And then I remembered McConaughey. I was watching an interview with him. He said every morning he does 8 puzzle pieces. Just 8 puzzle pieces. That's his whole ritual. Not a cold plunge, not a 5 a.m. grind. Just 8 quiet pieces before the world gets loud. And I thought, wait, that's exactly what I just did, but make it a whole weekend. And while doing it, I started connecting it to life. You know, when you searching so hard for the right piece, eye squinting, turning pieces around, trying different angles, and nothing works. Your vision gets blurry, and your brain gets frustrated. And then you just walk away, get some water, pet the cat, stare at the wall. Then you come back and suddenly you see 3 connections you couldn't see before. Right there, obvious, waiting. You didn't find them by trying harder. You found them by letting your mind wander. That's when I started thinking about life. I was looking at this pile of pieces, all green, all the same, nothing connecting, nothing making sense. And then my brain immediately went, something is wrong, maybe pieces are missing, maybe I'm doing this wrong, maybe this puzzle is broken. You know the feeling? When you're looking at something and just cannot see how it fits together. And the longer you stare, the more wrong it looks. Turns out there's actually a reason for that. Our brains are wired to want complete pictures. There is something called the Zeigarnik effect. Basically, our minds hold on to incomplete things, unfinished puzzles, open loops, unanswered questions. Our brain literally cannot let them go until they are resolved. So when we are staring at pieces that don't connect, we don't just feel confused, we feel uncomfortable, anxious, like something is fundamentally wrong. But here's the thing, nothing was wrong. The pieces were exactly right. I just couldn't see the whole picture yet. And that's when I started thinking about life. Because we do this constantly. We meet someone and we don't understand why they're in our lives. We go through something that makes no sense. We make a decision that leads somewhere completely unexpected. And we look at all these pieces and we think, this is wrong. I'm missing something. Something is broken. But what if nothing is broken? What if we're just in the middle of a puzzle? The mistake we all make, and I make this too, is we try to force the pieces. You know, when you're so convinced 2 pieces should fit together that you just keep pushing and they're almost connecting, but not quite. And you think maybe if I just push a little harder, yeah, they don't fit and they were never going to fit, but we lost 20 minutes trying to make them. We do this with people, with jobs, with situations, with versions of our life. we think we're supposed to have. We force things that don't fit because we can't see the picture yet, and forcing feels better than waiting. And sometimes it's hard to accept that, even when you know a piece doesn't fit. Letting go of it feels scary, and because what's outside of it, it's new, and new is uncomfortable, new is unknown. It's easier to keep holding the wrong piece than to put it down and sit with the empty space. But the empty space is where the right piece goes. I've done this. I stayed in a job way too long, kept showing up, kept telling myself that it would get better, kept trying to make it work, and everyone around me could see it wasn't fitting anyone except me. I tried to make a relationship work that wasn't working. You know how that goes. You keep turning that piece, trying every angle, convincing yourself that maybe this time it clicks. And then there is the version of yourself that doesn't fit. And this one is the hardest. Because sometimes you can't even see it. You just live in this life, playing this role, being this person. And something feels off, but you can't name it. You just don't see yourself there. But it's hard to leave because it's familiar, because at least you know what that piece looks like, even if it doesn't fit. And here is something I came across that actually made sense to me. There is this idea that people find it easier to change when they travel. When you're in a new place, new city, new country, new environment, you don't have your usual habits around you. Your old routines don't follow you there. So it's easier to start something new, to try a different version of yourself, because sometimes we don't need more willpower, we just need a fresh set of circumstances. A new table to do the puzzle on. And what actually helps? Not trying harder. I know that sounds wrong, but genuinely the moments I've let go of something that wasn't fitting, it wasn't because I pushed through it. It was because I got tired of holding it. And there is something that happens when you finally put the wrong piece down. This strange relief, like your hands were full this whole time and you didn't even notice. And then the empty space. That's the scary part, because the empty space feels like a failure, like you gave up, like something is missing. But the empty space is exactly where the right piece goes. You can't place the right piece if your hands are still full of the wrong ones. And here is what nobody tells you about life puzzles. Sometimes when a piece falls out, a new one appears. When I moved to the United States, everything changed. New country, new language, every day, new everything. And some pieces of me that I've been carrying for years just fell out. Habits, ways of being, versions of myself I thought were just who I was. And at first that feels like loss. Like the picture is getting smaller, like you are going backwards. But then something else shows up, quietly, in the empty space that piece left behind. Qualities you didn't know you had, things you are capable of that you never would have discovered if everything stayed the same. A version of yourself that only exists because circumstances forced her out. And sometimes you don't even see it while it's happening. You only see it after, when you look back at the picture and realize, wait, this looks different than what I planned, but it's actually better. That's the thing about puzzles. The picture on the box is just a suggestion. Your picture might look differently. And that's not wrong. That's just yours. This actually connects to something I work with a lot in my art. I paint with alcohol ink, and the whole thing about alcohol ink is you can control it. You can guide it, you can move it, you can breathe on it, but the moment you try to force it to do exactly what you want, it falls apart. And the best piece I've ever made, and that ever made, happened when I let go. When I stopped trying to control the outcome and just let the ink move. Puzzles are the same. Life is the same, and the piece will click when it clicks. And you can't force click. And then there is Onyx, my cat, who at some point decided that puzzle pieces belong under the couch. Not all of them, but enough to make you question everything. I'm sitting there fully in my flow, pieces finally starting to make sense, and he just walks across the whole thing. Deliberate, unbothered, knocks 3 pieces onto the floor and walks away. And honestly, I think there is a lesson in that too. Sometimes life just walks across your puzzle, not because something went wrong, but just because that's what happens. And you pick the pieces back up and you keep going. Because here is what I know now. When that green finally started forming something, a leaf, part of the tree, something bigger than just green, I understood why every single piece was there. Even the ones that seemed wrong, even the ones I tried to force, even the ones Onyx knocked under the couch, they were all exactly right. I just couldn't see the picture yet. And I think that's true about a lot of things. The people who came into your life at a strange time, the thing that happened that made no sense, the decision you made that took you somewhere completely unexpected, maybe they're not wrong pieces. Maybe you are just in the middle of the puzzle. And I still have pieces in my life I don't understand yet, and I'm learning to be okay with that. To not force, to not throw them away, to just leave them there and trust that at some point, click. What about you? Is there a piece in your life right now that doesn't make sense yet? Or one that finally clicked after a long time? Tell me in the comments. I actually want to know.